This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. We have a dryer here that has numerous problems. Mainly it's making a big screeching sound, so something has gone wrong. So we removed the screws on the back so we could take the top off. We're going to open it up and see what's going on. So we're going to remove these two modular wire connectors here on the right side, and we just have to remove some screws to take the front panel off. So we got a couple of Phillips head screws here on the left hand corner. There's two of them. Spin those out. We got a couple of Phillips head screws down lower, so it's about probably 7 inches down, that are holding the front panel on. One on the left side and one on the right side. They're just Phillips heads, so you can just spin them out. So get those out. We're going to get this bottom panel off too. It's just being held on by two screws on the very bottom. So I propped this up to make it easier to get to the screws. You could put like a book underneath, or 2x4, or in this case a brick. And we just take off those two screws, then we can get the bottom panel off. This would be the same panel you could take off if you wanted to replace the gas valves. And then just a couple more screws here on the top. Get those out. The bottom panel out of the way. There's two screws at the bottom that hold on the top panel. I gotta get those off. They're Phillips head also. The bottom right, bottom left hand corner. Got those off. Now I can lift off the front panel, and then I'll take a standard head screwdriver from the side and just pry a couple little clips that are holding it. So just stick it in there and twist, and that'll break loose the clips on the left side, and then the same thing on the right side. Alright, so now we can just lift and pull that panel off. There we go. We notice that the felt strip has come off. This is we call the front bearing. There's a top part of this and then a bottom part. We're just going to use contact cement to apply some to the frame or the front panel itself, and then we'll apply some to the felt strip and just let it dry until it's tacky. Usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Then you can put the two surfaces together. Just adding a little bit more. And this is the same stuff that's used at the factory to hold on these felt strips. So it turns out the felt strip was torn off because one of the plastic strips that goes on the drum that rides on this felt strip was damaged, just kind of wore out over time, and it had a sharp edge, and the sharp edge ripped off the felt strip and then created a metal on metal contact point with the bearing, and that made a lot of noise. So not only do we have to get this felt strip back on, but we had to replace the plastic, they call it a glide, the plastic glide that goes on the inside of the drum. So we'll show that here in a second. Also, that broke the belt because the drum couldn't turn anymore and the motor kept spinning, so that snapped the belt. So we ended up having to replace the belt too. So a lot of things went wrong. So we waited 10 minutes, we got it tacky, and then we pushed the felt back on, press it down hard, and that'll hold really tight. And here's the little glide plastic piece. I'm just making sure that it's seated all the way around. And here's how you pop off the old one. There's just these little tabs you push and the old one was damaged. A little piece of it had kind of worn out, broken, and created a sharp edge. So we have to replace this piece. And the new one just clips in. You push it into position, and then you push in like 3 or 4 little tabs, and that locks it in. So one there, one there, one there, and one there. Oh, and one at the bottom too. There we go. So you got the new bearing, new glide. You got back, push back onto the rear bearing. Put our retaining piece back in. Oh, I'm sorry. Right here, we're getting the drum out by lifting it up off of the rear bearing, and that's so that I could just clean up some of the lint that had accumulated. You can see this big chunk of lint here in the back, which is blocking airflow. So we're getting that out of there, and also I ended up putting some white lithium grease on the rear bearing, just re-lubricated that because it was all gone. I'm using a painter's brush to brush out all the lint that accumulated in the motor. You can just use also a really good vacuum would do it, but if you don't have a vacuum, just a brush to brush away all that would be great. Helps the motor cool down. We got everything back together. Put the top panel back on. Get the screws put in on the back to hold that. And we'll get the bottom panel back on. We'll be all done. So this cured the problem, which was a screeching sound. The screeching sound was due to the felt having been knocked off, and that was due to the plastic glide had worn out, created a sharp edge which ripped off the felt and also broke the belt. So a lot of things had gone wrong with this dryer, and these are just normal wear issues. So I'm just putting these 2 Phillips head screws back in to get the front panel back on, and then the dryer was working great again, nice and quiet, and parts are pretty cheap. Needed a new belt and needed that new plastic glide. And we were able to reuse the felt piece by just gluing it on with some contact cement. So thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance. Thanks so much.